maftirin k'de esmail. So we have to have a little bit of a tangible ice of a karas atayv. So since I'm getting so good at this, Rabbi Sai, so we have here a little bit of a tangible expression of a karas atayv, and the inscription says the same as yesterday. Why not? It's a good inscription. I'll read the inscription. It says, L'chvayt Ma'reinu Rabbeinu. I personally have spent hundreds of hours of learning Torah from SHRAGA, Ma'reinu Rabbeinu B'Hikara, with great thanks to his dedication, L'vlamei Torah, L'chaburas, Kailul Iyun. That's what we do. We learn B'Iyun, as he knows, largely to his efforts. Shalagunis Yisrael, Yasha Kayach to you. I assume you're going to use it for Pesach. You give your wife this whole thing and she'll take care of it. Yeah, shekayach to you. 1 second before we start. There is a dedication today to the Shiur. Rabbi Pearl gave me the piece of paper and I told him I'm going to lose it, so I lost it. Here's the dedication to Shiur by the KALLUS family. Of course, Rav Hershel, of which is a Maimer Chazal. Where are you? Where is he? Okay, so there's a Maimer Chazal, which says, Ashrei Aviv Shalom Deitayra. I'm not going to go through the whole Gemara, it's a long Gemara in Yuma. Ashrei Ladatai, so Rav Hershel Kallah, the father of our Chashuv Magid Shiur, is dedicating today's Shiur. L'zeich HaNishmas, his parents, of Shmuel Mordechai ben SHRAGA, okay, that makes sense. And Hen Shabbos, Rabbi Yisrael Tzvi. It's our schus, in person, to hear Torah. Repeat, Haggai and SHRAGA. We will hear a Divrei Haggadah later at the scene.
I look forward to using it on Seder night, Bez Hashem. Es hat gehört, es war bekannt, hat mir gebeten, zu geben das Shiur in Jiddisch. Weil versteht nicht Englisch. Yeah. I must tell you that there must be something miyuchad that's about to go on here. Miyuchad. Because today, unfortunately, I burnt my throat. So you can imagine what's going on in there. I burned my throat. And my doctors tell me that because of that, I have a slight problem down my throat, and I have to have ice cream. This will be the first Shiur in the history of Agudas Yisrael. Since, I imagine, since when the Shiur is so yogevel in Yiddish, since then, that the Magid Shiur will be eating ice cream during the Shiur. And as a matter of fact, I brought for everyone. It's right now at the KALLUS table. I don't imagine there's going to be that much left for everybody. But you have already that we're holding by a matziv. We're going to talk in Mitzvah Hashem. The drush, like you heard from Rabbi Gaddis in Mitzvah Hashem, we will talk about the Mitzvah Hashem afterward. To see him in Mitzvah Hashem, Rabbi Gaddis told me I should keep it under 2 hours. Mitzvah Hashem, yeah, I'll try. But we're going to talk about what probably, as far as not the limit, I'm not saying what's more important, what's less important, but what certainly has a very high level of importance, and maybe the most important, as I'll mention in a moment, is the inyan of mistakes during Kriyas HaTorah. Mistakes. The truth is, when I was going to originally give the Shiur, the Mekaymis were much larger and vaster. I was going to give on Kuf Mem Beis and Kuf Mem Gimel. That's the sugya of mistakes during the Kriya. That's the sugya of mistakes in the Sefer Torah lane. And I saw it's too much. It's too much. I'll break it up. I'll give half this week, the Kriya, Bez Hashem. And next week I'll give the mistakes in the Sefer Torah. What do you do if there's a mistake in the Sefer Torah? But this Rabbi Isai is a major sugya. A major sugya. What do you do? The biggest mistake, I was looking today for mistakes during the inyan of Kriyas HaTorah. The biggest mistake is not knowing what to do. When that matziv hits, and it's a busy Monday and Thursday, you know what I'm talking about. It's a busy Monday and Thursday, and the Bal Koirei, he says something, and no one's sure. You had to go back or not to go back. You had to say something. And this is something you have to be fluent in and baki. And it's a very, very serious shaila. I heard from Rebelsky, Zichron Levracha, cold, the doctor said cold. And that's why I have ice cream. Rabbi Gottesman, you want to share or no? Okay. Rabbi Belsky, Zichron Levracha, I heard from him that people make a mistake. They think that a person goes to learn the Inyane Smicha, which versteht sich, this is kashrus, this is nida, this is Shabbos, what we do the whole time. And he knows that, he come out, now he's a musmach, and he doesn't realize that maybe one of the most important things that a Rav needs to know, certainly a Talmud Chacham needs to know, is the Inyanim of Kriyas HaTorah. And he said it, I remember him saying it, he said, Chilul Hashem Amol. Amol, not, the Rav knows the Hilchos Kriyas HaTorah, but Amol, you're in a shul, you're in a shtibel, and something happens, he said this, he didn't say that, or there's a problem, no one knows what to do. They look at this young Talmud Chacham, and he says, Migu, what do you want from him, right? So you have to know these halachas. You have to know these halachas. These are mamish, when they come, b'shas ma'isa, I would say like this, these are halachas you have to be a Talmud Chacham in. What's scary is that when these mistakes hit, everybody becomes a Talmud Chacham. You know what I'm talking about? When these mistakes hit, fragnished, everybody becomes a bucky. This one says this. Me, what I do is I wait in the front. I wait till he says, and then I say. But you have to know what to do. These halachas. And the truth is that it's a very serious shaila. Very serious. We're dealing on the one hand with the most chamerdik, the most chamerdik Indian in Kallah Tarakul in all 1,705 simanim b'Shulchan Aruch. It never says these words except for once in Siman Tav Chaf, where it says that a person that's malbim pnei chaveiro berabim is ein lo chelik in olam haba. And we know that we're dealing with a shaila of correcting in a situation where potentially you were wrong, and maybe even if you're right, sometimes it could lead to a tremendous albanas upon him. Sometimes he gets embarrassed. So we're dealing with something that the Gemara says in Saita, the Gemara says in Baba Metzia. It's better it should be reingeschickt into a fire than to be malbin another yid. Suffices to say, the Rabbeinu Yoina in Gimel Kuf Lametes in Shar Tshuva, Rabbeinu Yoina brings down that a person, he has a shayla, three averis chamuras, there's 4. There's another one you have to give up your life for, not to be malbim pnei chavei barabim. Rabbeinu says, don't worry, it's included in Ritzicha. Not he says that it's not true. You have to give up your life, okay? I hope we don't paskin like Rabbeinu Yoina. But upon him, you see, we're dealing with something very, very chamur over here. Mitzat Sheni, if you have to, there's a person, he's sitting right next to you, and he's wearing shatnez, you gotta rip it right off. Good luck. I hope I didn't just disturb the peace. Because so, if need be, so the diktuk and the kavod HaTorah. So we're dealing with something that you really have to know. You have to know what's the right thing to do. Yes, to say something, not to say something. And and the third situation, we're dealing also with the Indian of Tircha de Tzibura. Sometimes you're dealing, you have to go back. What's the big deal? Just go back. Right? What's the big deal? Just to go back. There's a ma'aseh with Rabbi Yankiv Zichron Levracha. Rabbi Yankiv was at a chasana, and they couldn't find the ring, the tabas. He gave it to the chassan's brother, and the chassan's brother, he looked around, he forgot, it was in a different coat. Kitzer, right under the chuppah, Rabbi Yankiv said, where's the ring? So the brother said he realizes it's over there. So Rabbi Yankiv turned to somebody there, he turned to the chassan, he says, du hast a nickel. A nickel, you know what a nickel is, Rabbi Say? Indeed, side nickel given a pruta, right? I think it's like $400, but du hast a nickel. Does the nickel is just a nickel? He said, what do you mean? It's a Mishnah in Kedushin. You can Mekadesh Anisha with the pruta. So he said, no, we'll get the ring. Rabbi Yankiv said, but the cameraman is not going to go for this. It's not going to go. This one's not going to go by the cameraman. So the father ran. So he said, does anybody have a nickel? No. And the point was made. Tirchat Tzibura is not just, it's not 1 minute. What's 1 minute? It's 200 minutes. If there's 200 people, it's 400 minutes. If there's 400 minutes. So we're dealing with Tirchat Tzibura and Albanas Pnei Chaver Barabim, and we're dealing with the kavod of Torah, though. And that everything has to be with perfection. We're dealing with the Torah. Ein eitzav, ein tzvunah, l'neged Hashem. I started looking into the Indian of mistakes, and it's interesting. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention it. Even to an Eide Kedaisha, but if our Rebbe, the Chofetz Chaim Zichron Levracha, he spends the sharpest Bir Halacha in the whole Sefer Bir Halacha, Kimat the sharpest, Kimat. Only when it came to an Indian of Arayas does he scream a little bit more, but here he screams on his own. It's something very, very unique in the Sefer. In all 697 Simanim with the Mishabur, you'll never find him talking like this on his own. He'll always be quoting somebody else. And in Simin Kuf Mem Vav, and I see him over here in Sif Beis, he brings down, this is the biggest mistake in all of Kriyas HaTorah. Should know, maybe if there's time today, we'll talk about mistakes if you took out the wrong Sefer Torah, and you messed up in the bracha, and you messed up in the place. But I looked around, what's the biggest mistake in all of Inyanim Kriyas HaTorah? That the Chofetz Chaim calls this a suicidal mistake. It's a suicidal. He writes, "Your mafker nafshay." It's suicide to do this mistake. That's the mistake of talking during Kriyas HaTorah. I'm talking to an Eide Kedaisha that just learned for an entire week the Inyan of Kriyas HaTorah. But I'm not talking to anyone here. But if our Rebbe spoke about it, then he brings down, it's really Gemara in Saita, Daf Lamed Tes, also the Saper, from when the Sefer Torah comes to the Bima. Certainly once it's open, you're not allowed to talk, afilu ben gavra legavra. The Chofetz Chaim writes words over here in the whole Sefer Chofetz Chaim. Even ben gavra legavra, afilu b'divrei Torah, ben gavra legavra. He has a Kallah from the Bach that you could learn to yourself. A Kallah from the Bach. He's not sure, but the Bach is Mekel. Rabbi Yosef his Yarchei was during the Yarchei Kallah will be Mekel. But not to talk to somebody else. Not being Gavra Legavra, not Chalila B'Shat that the Sefer Torah is open. And certainly not to somebody else. And certainly, he writes these words. Kol Shekain B'divrei Choyel, and it gets to Lashon HARAV, L'chulei. He writes words which I must admit I don't fully understand. This is what the Chofetz Chaim writes. He writes, on this person that speaks during Kriyas HaTorah, especially if he's speaking Divrei Chulin, he says, Godel Avoyna Minasai. Now, the last time I checked that somebody said that, what was Godel Avoyna Minasai? Cain killed a quarter of the world. A revius of the world. 1/4 of the world, he killed billions, he killed. And on that, Cain said, but the oynish that I deserve is Godel Avoyna Minasai, I can't handle it. And on that, the Chofetz Chaim says that's what it is to the person that speaks. Godel Avoyna Minasai, a person that speaks during Kriyas HaTorah. The Zohar in this week's parsha, have the decorated. Mamish Dailam came Mamish, and Dailam was Sam Lev. The Zohars in this week's parsha are all about Kriyas HaTorah. Stam should know the Zohar, Daf Reish Vav, Daf Reish Vav, and Reish Zayin. All the Zohars, a lot of the Zohars about Psichos Aaron, etc. About that famous Zohar, the Brich Shmei that we all say. It's also over there. So the Zohar in Parshas Vayakel, it brings down. It says, when the Sefer Torah gets to the Bima, when it gets the Am has to be misaken themselves, with fear, with trepidation. I'm quoting it in English now. Like they're receiving it from Sinai. You see from the Zohar, Kriyas HaTorah is a reenactment of Sinai. A lot of the halachas are neveah from there. Maybe we'll see some of them. It's a reenactment of Sinai. Kipshuta. It's a reenactment. He says, the Zohar, listen, point your ears. The lashon of the Zohar, leis rishu lepumei lemiftoch pumen. No one has a right to open his mouth during Kriyas HaTorah except for the Baal Koreh. That's what it says in the Zohar. And no rishus, kol shekain, other things, even ba'iraisa. And then he writes these words, ki'ilu leis lepuma. During Kriyas HaTorah, he has no mouth. It's a game changer. When you know during Kriyas HaTorah, you have no mouth. The Yisai V'Sherish Avodah, he writes over here, on these words he writes, I can cry all day long about this, Yisai V'Sherish Avodah. But obviously, Fakert and Oilim, which is Mechabed the Torah, Ashrei Misha, Nizer B'Kavod HaTorah, that's what we're here. And the Ramat brings Taka, Merit Gazach. This is why we shuckle when we lay in Kriyas HaTorah. The Ramaz in Simin Memches, not by us. He says we shuckle during Kriyas HaTorah because we're reenacting Sinai. It's real. It's real. It's a machlekes if you're supposed to stand during Kriyas HaTorah, Simin Kuf Memvav, you're supposed to stand during Kriyas HaTorah. Others said you should stand just like at the Matan Torah you're supposed to stand. The Arizal Dafka sat. The Ikra Din is that you're allowed to sit. That's the Ikra Din. And the Paiskim, they all say, well, if you'll have more kavanah, then sit, right? I sit. I have more kavanah when I sit, so therefore I sit. But everybody's trying to figure out what's going to be the most effective and efficient way of getting the Kriyas HaTorah, of what it has to offer. And about not even to walk out, says the Shulchan Aruch and Simin Kuf Mem Vav. Once they open the Sefer Torah, you can't even walk out, even being Gavra Legavra. Even if you came in Barai, there are some coolers. If he's in Oynes, or if he's going to hear the Kriyas HaTorah again, but you never walk out. Or if you heard it already, but you never walk out when the Sefer Torah is on the Bima. It's certainly not when it's open. Let's understand what we're dealing with over here. But that's a mistake. That's the biggest mistake of everything. It's the biggest mistake. But let's talk about the mistake of what we'll see here. What's our mistake? So, our mistake is Dinei Nefashis. Dinei Nefashis. That's what we're dealing with. Mistake of do we stop him or do we not stop him? Do we tell him that, he made a mistake? What types of mistakes do we stop for him? What do we not stop for him? And this is a very, very dangerous mistake. The gabbai already, sometimes you have to wake up on the spot. He said the word like this, and really the words like that, and maybe we find out that it mamish changes the definition and whatnot. Kitzur, after the davening, you go over to the Rav, you tell him, listen, I know 100%. I heard him say chalev instead of chalev, or chalev instead of chalev. It's a common one. No, I heard him, but that's a game changer. He just messed up. It's a different word. Why not? It's only chalev, that's the problem. So you go to the Rav says, you sure? The Rav says, you sure? He said, I'm telling you, 100%, 100%. No, okay, maybe you say, what if everybody else says not like it? We can get into this shaila. Okay. But he tells you 100%, I'm telling you. He says, okay, so tell the gabbai we have to do the leinig again. Maybe come out like that. The gabbai is already announcing the kiddush. You can smell the kugel. You verstehe the matzah. You have the kugel. You have the matzah, right? Everyone's going to really thank you. You're going to get a misha berach. You're going to get for this aliyah. You're going to get misha berach, right? So now we got to know what do we do with the ma'aseh? What do we do with the ma'aseh? So, and to Hashem Yid, I can't overstress because today we're going to talk about stopping people. So only if we know and only when it's right. Only when we know and only it's right. Because when you're talking about Albanas Panim, if we're dealing with a hiddur, if we'll be dealing with something that the Kriyas HaTorah, maybe it'll be a more mechuder to Torah. So who gives you a right to maybe be over on Albanas Panei Chaveroi? It's a shayla. The Ma'aseh with the Sar Shalom, Pesach is coming. I see my Becher over here. So there's a Ma'aseh with the Sar Shalom. The Sar Shalom and his mother, obviously they were makbid on gebrox, and his mother forgot. He was sitting with his mother, and she put the matzah, this is like a cardinal sin in the Heimische Welt, and she put the matzah inside the soup. She put the matzah in, she forgot. It was an older lady, she forgot. She put it in, and then Weistais and Belzer, maybe by the Rebbes, they eat out of the mother's, that's how it goes. That's how it goes. I think my mother wouldn't be so happy about it, but that's how it goes. They eat out of the soup. So she took the matzah, put it in the soup, and then she passed the bowl to her son, to the Sar Shalom, and he ate the soup. He ate the soup afterward. They said, Rabbi, gebrox. He said, gebrox is a hiddur. Gebrox is a hiddur. Keep it up the aim. Das ist mamish. Das ist mechamuras shebechamuras. It's a chamuras shebechamuras. The tea, the sugar, mamish. These are chamuras shebechamuras. Somebody said to me a ma'aseh when I said this story over. He told me that in Skver, the minig is that they don't sing kokeli, or in certain times they don't say kokeli. I don't know. I'm not from Skver. And somebody came in, he didn't know the minig, they put him up for the Amid, and he started to sing Kokeli. Okay? And the Rebbe's of Gornish, everyone knows in Skver, the Minhagim, they don't touch the Minhagim. The Rebbe Gornish, people were looking at the Rebbe, nothing, Gornish, not Schweigt in Gaza Gornish. Kids afterward, they came to the Rebbe, but the Minig Skver is not to sing Kokeli. So the Rebbe said, the Minig Skver is Nitzit Hashem and a Yid. That's the minig. So if we're dealing with a chumrah, with a hiddur, so maybe the minig of us is not the Hashem and Yid. Mitzacheni. We know there's something. So let's see. Let's see. So this is the sugya. Now, the ma'aseh. Let's maybe start with a chakira. Don't worry, it's not going to be, is it a chayvus yachid or a chayvus tzibur? You're going to have therapy after this. We still don't know. When I say today the word chayvus tzibur and chayvus yachid, I mean ein zach. I just mean we're dealing with the yachid, that says the bal koyrei, and we're dealing with the tzibur, the attackers. Mitzrayim, es. That's what I mean today. So but let's start with a chakira, an andere chakira. Okay, what's my chakira? The chakira is like this: yesh lachkor. Who says that it has to be perfect? I'll say it in my English. Who says that the laning has to be perfect? I know what's the objective of the laning. Maybe the longest of the laning is, as I say, you can't go 3 days without Torah. So you need to convey the message of Torah, something like that. You need to convey the message. You need to have. We need to have Torah every 3 days or something like that, and get the whole. So who says it has to be perfect? That's one way to look at it. Maybe no, or maybe no. It's a din kriya. Do these two tzadim exist? Yeah, they exist. What does it say in the Yerushalayim? It says in the Yerushalayim in Megillah that when it comes to Megillah, ain't medaktikin ba. By Megillah Taka, it says me first, the Shulchan Aruch, as I get past the Tafrich Tzadi, that it doesn't have to be with perfection, the Megillah, you know that? Rav Chaim in Sefer, not in Sefer, in stencils, Rav Chaim explains what's the pshat. Because the vart of the Megillah is not to be perfect, it's to convey the message, Pesumanisa. It's just to convey the message, the ganze story. You got to get the whole story. So besides, the ik is not to be with perfection, exact. So maybe that's the objective of Kriyas Torah. We just need laning. We needed to have to convey the message of the Torah. Maybe that's the pshat. Or maybe no. We know that this Parshas Zachor doesn't work like that. You know, Parshas Zachor, the way that Parshas Zachor works, just in Kriya, it's got to be perfect. Mamish Zachor, Zecher, you know, we're already getting nervous, you know. I heard once from Reb David, so it's Amerikaner Shabacher. Amerikaner Shabacher doesn't give in the Yoren in Brisk, you know. He's Amerikaner Shabacher, he goes, he hears, you know, 5 Zachors, 6 Zachors. He only has to hear 4, 3, 4. He doesn't have to hear 5, 6 Zachors. What's up? Chumras, dust, you know. Okay, so, you know, but so we know when it comes to Zachor is mamish, a kriya, everything has to be in ganz and perfect. No? So what's the din in Kriyas Torah? And that's our shayla. Maybe it's enough. Say, makes a mistake. Mitzrayim, it's supposed to nafkamina. Maybe got the message. Or no, maybe it has to be perfect. That's the shayla. Comes again the manik that the Olam saw, the Torah brings down, and Ninza the Sim and Kufmen Beis. And the manik says, don't correct him. We're going to get the answer to both our questions right away. He says, don't correct him. I have a medrash that says, number one, you're going to mevayish him. And I have a medrash that says that HaKadosh Baruch Hu accepts people that when they talk, instead of saying Adin HaKoyin, they say Hadin HaKoyin. That's how it goes. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu accepts him, so you should also accept him. If he goes and he makes a mistake, in laning, no, you can fakok. You can fages and fakok for everything, right? Don't worry about it. Overlook it. Okay. So the Manik answered both our questions. He says, first of all, we're misyaches to busha. We reckon with busha. You see someone's going to get embarrassed, so we reckon with busha. That's very good. Now we know. We could have thought mechatesi. Maybe we don't care about busha over here. You put yourself up to the, you put yourself in the what's the word? Target, I think it's called. you put yourself in the target zone, and that's it. So he says, no, why should you mevayish him? But he explains why should you not mevayish him? Because what's the difference? He might say anyways. Mamish, the answer to both our questions. And it seems like the manik is taking this tzad in the shayla, this tzad in the chakira. That what's stuck in the pshat? The pshat is that it doesn't have to be perfect. Once it doesn't have to be perfect, it's just a din to convey the message of the Torah Kedosha. As I've been saying, for Hashem and Ayid, the minig of Inzas nit Hashem and Ayid. Does I get the manik? Maisa, life is easy. Certainly for the sit back with ice cream, life is easy. Life is easy. Certainly for the Baal Koire, and also for us. We can sit back and relax and whatever he says. No, that's it. Comes again the Rambam over here. The Rambam, the way he writes the words in Hilchos Tefillah and Perkei Beis and Halacha Vav. The Rambam writes, Kora v'to afilu b'diktuk ois echos. Afilu metadiktuk ois echos. He made a mistake in an ois. He says he's not yotzei. The Rambam, afilu one letter, it has to be perfect. So now we have our chakira. Rambam says, no, this is Torah. It's Maimonides in Perek Daled. He says, what's the makor of the Rambam? It's a Yerushalayim in the Megillah. And it says over there that Targum, you don't have to read. We all know because we don't read Targum. So you don't have to read Targum B'tzibur. You don't have to. But if you read the Targum B'tzibur, it does that with perfection. It has to be perfect. And not, you have to go back. So that now you're seeing something. Once it's read B'tzibur, it has to be perfect. Whatever is read B'Rabbim, I guess the idea is that a mistake that's made in public, it sends a message. Maybe people are going to say, hey, Itaka might say that. Does it actually say that? Or maybe people are going to make a mistake. Look, nobody else stopped it. Maybe there's a problem in the Sefer Torah lane. So he read it like that. So maybe there's a pagam in the Sefer Torah, fregnish, that we're careful with pagam in the Sefer Torah. What does the Gemara Yuma say on Daf Ayin? Moshe brings it down in the Tshuva, the famous Tshuva. We talked about another mistake. We accidentally took out a Sefer Torah. Where is it? I think in the 37th Tshuva. You took out a Sefer Torah. You took out the wrong Sefer Torah. And now, what do? This is also very serious because I'm holding the Sefer Torah. It's rolled to Zois HaBracha. We're up to Bereshis. Yeah? They took out the wrong one, right? Somebody should help that poor fellow. So now you're going to take it. Says Reb Moshe, but what's with Tircha Tzibura? What's with Tircha Tzibura? So Reb Moshe says, yeah, but what's with Pagam of the Sefer Torah? What's going to happen? They're going to put back that Sefer Torah, and people are going to say, how people talk, there was a problem with that Sefer Torah. They'll say, yeah, it was rolled to that. Yeah, that's what they're saying. That's what they're saying. They just don't want to Hashem the Sefer Torah. So Moshe says, Amar Dik Psak there of Moshe. Derech Agav, I'll throw this in. He says, David Kamar Ovid, because it's a big shaila, which is more tircha de tzibura, or the Indian of begam of a sefer Torah, brings him a gemara in Yuma daf ayin that dance with both stadim. He says, but the ma'isa, most people they're going to be mevater and moichel on their time because they're so worried about the begam of the sefer Torah. Let me know if in your shtibel you daven with those people. But okay, but that's what we're dealing with over here. Begam of a sefer Torah. Maybe out loud he's going to go and say the laning, and people are going to say, he said it like that, so I guess that's what it says in the Sefer Torah, I guess it's a mistake, etc., etc. So does Rabbi say is one makor of the Rambam. The Rabbeinu Menoyach, he brings a different makor. He says, doesn't it say in the Gemara in Sanhedrin Daf Tzadites that a person that accepts everything from the Torah, except for ois echas from the Torah, is apikor is dvar Hashem baza. So he says, this is an ois echas. You don't realize every single dot, every drop of ink in the Sefer Torah, every single drop of ink that we say is kulai kaddish. It does make a nafkamina. It makes a total nafkamina. Every koitz, every tag has a value. What does it say in the Gemara in Saita? The Gemara says, Mishmei Rebbe Kiva's Torah. What's the bottle covered Torah when Rebbe Kiva died? So it says Rashi, Murdik Rashi. Sometimes you can't, some leave to such a Rashi, Murdik. Rashi says, when Rebbe Kiva died, he was the one that used to darshan every koitz and tag. Right? What did the Rebbe Ham Zichron Levracha, how he used to say over this Rashi? That's the cover Torah is. He would, every single koitz and tag, every single drop of ink was precious. As I was like, that's the psak in the Heilige Rambam. I saw the Beis Yosef, I bring the eigen psak. He brings his own pshat, the Beis Yosef, in the pshat in the Rambam. He says, the Yerushalayim that we mentioned before. What did the Yerushalayim say before? The Yerushalayim said, Megillah doesn't have to be perfect. What's the implication? Yeah, but Kriyas Torah does. So and what's the word? So now we have a chakira, something like Purim Megillah. That just has to convey the message. Torah, perfect. Everything has to be perfect. And those are the machlekes. So very good. So now we have our two stadim, and now we just have to know how do you paskin? How do you paskin? The only thing is, and if this, good luck to the Svardi Balkoire. Because this is a very, every ois, every Mitzrayim is a tragedy. Milra, Milael, everything, it's all, every diktuk, every trop, every single thing. They say Reb Chaim in Brisk, he passed him like the Rambam, and Reb Chaim used to go back for the trop. If you messed up even in the time and everything, you go back even for that, because it makes nafkamina. Moshe Sternberg brings it down in his sefer, the Reb Chaim was makbid on the Rambam, Adasayf. So now we have to know how we paskin. The only thing is that when you hear the machlekes like this, it's a bit extreme. What's meant das taka? Does it mean that the manig is paskining, that I'm laning, and I say Chag HaMatzis hazeh, and it's really Chag HaSukkos? So samach t'shtois, because it doesn't make a difference, right? It doesn't make a difference as long as you're trying and whatever. Something seems very strange to say such a thing. It's not mistaber. V'oid, the Beis Yosef asks the kasha. The Beis Yosef asks on the manig that in Kuf Mem Aleph, the Beis Yosef asks Grace Kasha l'chayr. Yes, on the tour, excuse me. Beis Yosef asks on the tour that in Kuf Mem Aleph he brings the Rosh. The Rosh brings down that you're supposed to have a designated Balkoire. As I bring this, and they used to have a designated, because you should know, obviously you all learned Megillah, and you know that in the olden days they didn't have a designated Balkoire. The way it was is that the Oila would get the Aliyah, and he would lane. But today you should have a designated Balkoire, the Rosh says. Says the Rosh, what's the reason why? He says, because he might make a mistake. And the Rosh's lashon is, and you might not be Yotzei. In fact, the Beis Yosef, over here in Kuf Membrace, you bring down the manig, so at least bring the machlekes, something. Over here you say, according to the manig, it's fine even if you make a mistake. So why over there, when you bring down the Rosh, in Siman Kuf Mem Aleph, you bring that, no, you have to have a designated Balkoire, because if you make a mistake, you're not going to be Yotzei. Over there, you're Soisim, like the sheet of the Rambam. So the Beis Yosef has one teretz, which is maybe more of the Pashut Pshat. He says, yeah, we want to have a designated Lichatchila with the Evid. You want to have, why should we get into the Shaila? Lichatchila for Shteitzach. So that's why, but that's not the Lashon of the Rosh. That's not the Lashon. The Lashon of the Rosh is, and that's why the Beis Yosef goes with another teretz. The Lashon of the Rosh is because he might make a mistake and you might not be Yotzei. But so says the Beis Yosef, B'Shem the Riben Chaviv, he says, no. This is the aside of today. All agree, Sai the Rambam, Sai the Manig, everyone agrees that if you have a mistake that changes the Pshat, then a Vada you're not Yotzei. That's a Vada, and that just made our job much more serious. Even the Manig agrees. If you have a mistake that changes the Pshat, the Vada you're not Yotzei. All the Manig was saying is if you have a mistake that doesn't change the Pshat, what's the obvious kasha, Rabbi Yisai? So what's the obvious kasha? Haran, Aaron, it sounds pretty bad. That's a whole different fellow. Haran is a ganz andere Mensch. He's a whole different fellow than Aaron HaKohen. So what's this all about? So here, the Maisa, the plot thickens. The boy say, this medrash that is brought from Shir HaShirim that the Manik brings, is there such a medrash? Is there such a medrash? So I looked up, there's no medrash. There's no medrash. You know what the medrash says? There is a medrash that talks about Tiglu alai ba'ava, the medrash in Shir HaShirim is a hafladik medrash. It talks about the liebshaft, the halakha Bashefa has for Klal Yisrael. Even a simple person, the medrash says, this Yid, he says Aaron, sometimes Haran, Aaron. He says Masha instead of Moshe. That's the girl's name, right? He's trying. He says, this poor guy, he says, Oy, vayavta es Hashem alekecha. Vayavta, that's I hate, Chalila. Right? It's supposed to say, he says, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, but he's trying. If he skips, I'll be okay with it. I'm okay with it. If this person is trying, I'm okay with it. That's all it talks about. It's talking about a person, the fellow is sitting there saying, it's a tilim zaga, shein a mensch, shein a yid. It's not talking during Kriyas HaTorah. So what does the manik want bichlal? There's no medrash that says anywhere during Kriyas HaTorah, if you said Horon by mistake instead of Aaron, that you Yarchei. And as I fact, Yarchei Shulchan, Yarchei Shulchan is very difficult. It's hard to understand the Yarchei Shulchan's teretz. Yarchei Shulchan sounds like, I don't fully understand Ayin Sham. He says a teretz that maybe with the different Malkiel, I'll explain the Yarchei Shulchan, but he says, Avada, there's no such thing. And Avada, because the Manig holds also that you're not Yarchei if it's a mistake in Pshat. If it makes a mistake in Pshat. All the Manig wants is the Musik. He just wants to show there's like a little bit of a liberal attitude when it comes to a person who's trying. So if this guy's trying, so then you see even when it comes to davening and he botched up the whole thing, we're going to tell him it's okay. B'diavad. Okay? But it's a Kal V'chomer. When it comes to Kriyas HaTorah, if it's not something that's ma'akiv, it's a hard Kal V'chomer. Kal V'chomer, if it's something in Kriyas HaTorah, which is not ma'akiv, then we're not going to go and make a rash. But if it's a mistake in Pshat, then we're going to make a big deal out of it. But it's a little bit hard, the Yarchei Shulchan. So I saw the different Malkiel. He has a very nice tshuva in Chelek in the 20th tshuva, in Siman Chaf. Very nice tshuva. He's talking about there was a mistake in Parshas Lech Lecha, that they said, I think, Karasa. They said Karas, sorry. They said Karas, which is Lashon Nekeva, instead of Karasa, which is Lashon Sacher. And he has a whole problem over there. What do we do? What do we do now? Not Yarchei. Yeah, Yarchei. So he gets involved in this, and he says, Avada the Manig holds you not Yarchei. Also, if it's a mistake in Pshat, then this is a mistake in Pshat also. Zacher, Nekeva, does a Zicher. I think it's like all. But does a Zicher a mistake in Pshat? Does a Zicher. Maybe not. Maybe. No. They haven't decided yet, so. But he says, he says, why is it? It always bothered me, this Shiloh also. It's a Taisis and Avodah Zarah. Derech Agav, if anybody wants ice cream at the KALLUS table, they still have. But Weinberger, maybe if you go over and have something that they know I'm in business.
It's called straw, yeah?
Oh, I hope so. So he asked the kasha, which always bothered me, this kasha. Why is it that the example of the Medrash is a modern example? This person's trying. He says Aaron and Haran, right? Why does he say this person's trying? He says Esav instead of Yaakov. Sometimes you have the little kids, they come home from Ghana, and they're 3 years old, and they say, ooh, that Yaakov, he's such... No, the Esav's the bad one. So why don't we say he's trying? Why don't we say the mistake is Yaakov Esav? What's the... Avram Yitzchak? Why is he making the mistake between Aaron and Haran? So he says, also, Taisus in Avodah Zarah, it's a Shein Adiyak he has. Taisus in Avodah Zarah brings this down in Daf Chav Beis. Taisus says that this person said Haran instead of Aaron. Says Taisus, he left out the aleph. In fact, the different Makil, Shkoyach. He left out the aleph. We know, Haran instead of Aaron, he left out the aleph. So he said, no, it's like the Makil, Murdik Kibshad. He said, we're talking about someone that where he comes from, and he says, Haran, it means Aaron. By us, what's Moshe? Moshe is Moshe, right? That's what it means. In their world, when they say Vayafta, that's how they say Vayafta. Everyone knows. We say Shkoyach. We say Shkoyach. What's Shkoyach mean? We're going to say the whole thing. Yeah, sure. Right? I was told once that there's only one place in the whole entire Aleph base that, a word, we start a word with a langachaf, with an endachaf. What's that? Chivroi Shmai. Right? So what does it mean? Right? It means, it means Baruch Hu, that's what it means. By Maine, never do this. The furthest most state in mainland America is Maine, but it's not the answer to a bracha. It doesn't work. It's a noira pacha. Don't do that. But the point is, you know how it is. So we say shkoyach, it means this. This guy says Haran, he means Aaron. Says it different Malkiel. That's what was going on over here. We're talking about mistakes. He says we're talking about mistakes that when he makes this mistake, everyone knows it means that. It means that. And that's what he explains. Sorry?
He said Mesha. Everybody knows that.
Masha. Well, but some people actually believe Mesha is how you say it, right? That's how he said it. Litvak. Right? But so this type of mistake, he says this is a pronunciation mistake. He says, if it's a pronunciation mistake, and in this place it means that, Mitzrayim, it means that. When you're hearing Mitzrayim, it means that. It means the same thing. But he says if it's a mistake, mamish, and it means two different things, Zachar and Akeva, two different things, so then of them, the manig was never mekel. So what comes out the machlekes? The Rambam is more demanding. The Rambam is every kaitzin tag. The Rambam is every batach and tzeirei and everything. The Rambam is everything. Everything. Whether it changes, you have to go back for every single thing, and you're not yaitze if not. The manig was more liberal on that. If it's a mistake in Pshat, you have to go back. And the Trumas Hadeshen, in Chelik Beis in Siman Kuf Pei Aleph, he discusses what's the psak, l'maisa. They came to him, well, they didn't come to him because he made up the shilas, as you know. But he made up the shilah, a very interesting shilah, which were makar toiv to the Trumas Hadeshen, because we have two sifim in Shulchan Aruch because of him, Kufman Beis Aleph and Beis. Over there, the shilah was that there was a shtetl that they kept on batching up the laning. Nobody knew how to lane properly. So they asked the Trumas Hadeshen, maybe we should just abolish it. Nobody knows how to lane. Maybe we should just abolish it. And the truth is, this Shaila, Geveinlich was Nageya 2 years ago when we had a lot of the Corona minyanim. Some people had Tifik Torah, but what do? We don't really know how to lane, so I got this Shaila. Do we just do the laning and mess it up, or do we not do the laning? These are mamish maisim that you think you hear from the Trumas Hadeshen in the medieval times, after, No, you had these Shailas in the last couple of years, a lot of these Shailas. No. So the Trumas Hadeshen says, what should I tell you? He says, my Rebbeim, they paskin like the manig. And the manig, he speaks it out, mamish rachel b'tchatana, the manig holds you need a real mistake in order for it to be a problem. If it's not a real mistake, then it's not a problem. But my Rebbeim paskin like the manig, he speaks it out that even the manig wasn't Mekel, Yaakov, Esav, and it has to be something that doesn't change the pshat. And then he writes these words, very interesting. He writes, my Rebbeim accepted this. His examples are like Avada, not Avram and Yitzchak. His examples are, my Rebbeim said, no, if it's a patach, a koimitz, a tzeirei, let it slide. And then he writes, and goyerim ksas. We have to see what this is today. This goyerim ksas, a little bit of a goyer. He says that's what you do. Shulchan Aruch and Kuf Mem Beis, Paskins, start him. He Paskins for the right, like the Rambam. He says, no, you don't accept mistakes. Even if it's a mistake, taka, in a patach, in a tzeirei, in a trup, in everything, you don't accept mistakes. The Ramat brings down the Trumas Hadeshen, he brings down these psakim of the manig, and he says, if he makes mistakes that change the meaning, so then that's it, ein malasat. Then you have to go back. But if he makes a mistake in a tiktuk, or his echos, what the Rambam calls, so then, goyrim ksas, ve'ein machzirim, so lashon, goyrim ksas ve'ein machzirim. What's this lashon? Goyrim ksas ve'ein machzirim, mekochayim. He explains that you have to be goyer ksas because you want to give him a message that next time you got to prepare. We don't want to have this problem again. So he says you have to be goyer ksas. He sounds like the Mekochayim has one side that it sounds taka like not even Shasmaisa. That's what it sounds like a little bit in the Mekochayim. Mishpur also a little bit sounds like that, a little bit. He says he doesn't speak it out. I'll speak it out. V'kiteim, it's embarrassing. I guess there's a certain level of where there was an expectation. You put yourself there. If you're a sensitive soul, then maybe you should not be, maybe this shouldn't be your line of work. But going ksas. I saw Moshe Sternbach, Zayin Gesund. It's a very nice psak, a very, very nice pshat. He writes in Aleph Kuf Mem Zayin, he says, you know what? It's not so embarrassing when it's goyering ksas. I explain what he means. He said, if we have a mistake and mamish, the guy wakes up after chaylev, chalav, that's mamish, or let's say Mitzrayim, a mistake that you don't have to go back for, lefi the manik. He wakes up a pasuk later. No, he said Mitzrayim. You're going back. That's a whole asik. That's a busha. The guy says Mitzrayim. He said Mitzrayim. Ace. I'm trying to remember the ones they corrected me at my bar mitzvah. But Ace. So he says, if you right away say it, it's normal. It's normal. That's how he explains it. That's a goyim ksas. And if you see he doesn't go back, keep going. Ein machzir. You did the goyim ksas and keep going. Sometimes you see the people in the shul, Mitzrayim. He said Mitzrayim. He's taking out the revolver. No, you goyim ksas. And then if he listens, he's like, Derech Agav, I wonder out loud. You'll tell me if I'm wrong. I wonder out loud. Maybe it should be the Gabbai's job, or maybe it should be the Rav's job. Maybe it should be the Rav's job. Yeah, maybe. I decided that other people in my shul took the jobs, even though I'm the Rav, I gave it to them. You know what I'm saying? But it's minimize the busha. Akupanim. This Rabbi is the idea. But you have to remember always, the Bal Koirei has to remember. He has to remember, and this is why some shuls, they don't let the bar mitzvah boy get up. You have to remember, according to the Rambam, you're not Yarchei. But you have to know that. You have to keep this in mind. The Rambam's shita is that he messes up a little bit. He's not Yarchei. It's a tremendous achrayus in the Bal Koirei. He has to realize this. Right? Okay, so let's see now, based on this Hakadama. Listen, Rabbi Isai, the Halakha Rebbe Kiva. Milanu Gadol Rebbe Kiva, the Gemara Menachah says he was bigger than Moshe Rabbeinu, the Gemara Menachah says. And Rebbe Kiva, the Chazal tell us, one time they offered Rebbe Kiva to lane. And Rebbe Kiva, they give him an aliyah. They offered him an aliyah. In those days, getting an aliyah meant you also late. And Rebbe Kiva declined. He declined. Now you know that to decline an aliyah is a dangerous thing. It's a pachad to decline an aliyah. They offer you a sefer Torah, you don't decline. A kafa, you don't decline. Rebbe Kiva declined. The Gemara says it's Ma'arich Yomim to take the sefer Torah. And who are then the opposite, you know. So how did Rebbe Kiva not take the sefer Torah? How come he did? So he said, I didn't prepare. But Rebbe Kiva, you know Kallah Kula, but I didn't prepare. And just like if I was a weak person, I'm not doing Hagbah, because I can't do the Hagbah. So then I did, and just like if they give you an aliyah and you say, wait, but Yanim has Yarchei or something like that, so then you're not going to get a punishment for not taking the aliyah. You're going to get a very big schus and you're going to get a very big mitzvah. Okay, so then but it has to teach a person that the Bal Koirei has to be prepared. But with this together, let's see. Let's go in. The Mishabura brings down every milra, every milael. He has to learn. He has to learn, and he has to be prepared. So let's see. With this, some of the various shilas that come up. Let's see. The truth is, I'll start with the tefillah because the Beis Yosef Taka he brings down that there was some that had the minig that they would say v'hurach mechaper oven after the laning, because who knows? Maybe he made a mistake. Right? Maybe he made a mistake. I guess maybe we can add. Maybe they corrected him where they shouldn't. Maybe they were mevayishim. But the Kavachayim. Sorry? Everybody said. It sounded like the whole oilam says it. They all said v'urachim mechaper. It's like about to start the Ma'ariv over here, you know. But the Kavachayim starts with something a little bit shen. The Kavachayim says, you know what? Maybe before the tefillah we should have a minute to say v'noyim Hashem Elokeinu ma'as yadayna koinei. Hakadosh Baruch Hu, you know, that there's lanings will get it and leicht and it should go smooth. But with this, let's see, all the shilas now should fall right into place. Mishabur and Simukov Membei says, if there's a mistake in the trop, it's like the Mishabur, ein machzirin. Ein machzirin, okay. Mishabur brings down, let's say he adds a letter. Im, v'im. Right? He adds a letter. Instead of im, he says v'im. This happens a lot. He says im, instead of im, he says v'im. Mishabur says, it doesn't change the pshat. It doesn't change the pshat. It goes back into the gather of machzirin, right? It goes maybe into goyim ksas and whatever. Okay, but that's also doesn't change the psak, the pshat. Mitzrayim, ace. Avada doesn't change pshat. Goyim ksas. And machzirin. Goyim ksas also means, Rabbi Yisai, if you see the whole entire laning, he the whole time is saying Mitzrayim instead of Mitzrayim. It happened 4 times already. He's got a chazaka, Rabbi Yisai. According to all the shittas, he's got a chazaka. So that you did the goyim ksas, it's going to happen 14 more times. That's as I get this. So then it's okay. From that point on, it's already okay. The Mishabura brings down, the Paiskim will bring, there are some that are very serious. Yaseh, one's the past, one's the present, these are serious. Chalav Chaylev, we keep saying, this is a very big problem. Chalav Chaylev changes the pshat, and you have to be chayzer. Machzirin. We'll see soon in Mitzvah how to be machzirin, but you have to be machzirin for this. Yoshav, Yoshev, are for sure 2 different words. One is he sitting, one is he sat. It's a whole different world. So it has to be kipshuta, something, you know, either it's a past tense or present tense or a totally different world. It's interesting, the Aruch HaShulchan has an example here of kesev and keves, which really means the same thing. And he says that doesn't matter, it's a different word. Even though it didn't change pshat, but he says it's a different word, so that's no good. That's not good. Come again? That could be. That could be. I don't know. I'm not so good in diktuk. I mean, diktuk. But that could be. He's saying, anyways, there might be a pshat. I thought that Yarchei Shulchan was saying a chiddush in that it's the same thing, it's just a different word. But you're telling me that I'm making a mistake because it's a different type of animal. Okay, good. You see? It's good. I came to learn. That doesn't. Now, the Maisa, Shabayim, Shemoyim, Milra, Mil'el, you understand that that's not going to be Ma'akiv. Now, there are some that are different. No, I shouldn't say it like that. Excuse me. Oh, I'm sorry. Milra, Mil'el is a very complicated sugi. I'm sorry. Right? Ve'ohav to. Yeah, Baba is the famous one. That's the one everyone talks about. But Ve'ohav to, right? Ve'ohav to. Right? One is, I used to love. I don't want to say, right? I used to love Hashem Yisbarach. And one is, I love him. It's two different words. You're giving the stress at the end, or you're giving the stress in the beginning. Now, I know, Rabbi, I'm seeing already, oh no, he's about to do the diktuk stuff. He's not. He's very bad in diktuk. So you have nothing to worry about. Right? But you can understand that sometimes if you make the emphasis in the beginning, so it could change it from being a past tense to a future tense, etc. So this one, kipshuta, should have been ma'akiv. It's interesting that there's no real strong diukim in the Mishnah Berurah about this. The Maisa, Rosh Hashanah in the Halacha he says that you're Yarchei b'di'evet on this. I guess this goes into the Divrei Malkiel's understanding. This is how he says v'hafta, v'hafta. This is how he says it. We know the word. We know what he means. I saw Rabbi Yankiv Zichron Levracha, and Emes Yankiv has a little bit of a Tifer Hesber. He explains it with, in diktuk, sometimes we allow for the context to explain the word. And whoever understands me, I don't understand you, because I don't know diktuk. Right? And he has a whole arichas there. For those that love diktuk, ayin sham. V'doiketiv. But that's basically most of these types of cases. Shvano, shvanach, b'derek is not ma'akiv. A mapikei is very chashiv. Goyim ksas, but it's not ma'akiv. A hey ayidiyah can sometimes change the meaning. A hey ayidiyah, this. It's trying to emphasize this thing. And if you don't have that emphasis, you might be missing out. It might change the pshat. I once had a mice in a shul, and they missed out on a hey yidiyah, and I felt it changed the pshat. I made them go back. I had to go back. It changed the pshat. I don't remember. And I was trying to look today which one it was. Right? And that's why it probably... Now, Lemaisa, let's say, there's an interesting shayla. Let's say you left out a letter and it doesn't change the pshat. Like im and ve'im. It's supposed to be ve'im, and you said im. You didn't say ve'im. So you left out a letter. This is an interesting thing. There's a machlekes, in the Mishnah Berurah, the Aruch HaShulchan. Mishnah Berurah says you're Yarchei b'di'evet. Mishnah Berurah brings down, because it doesn't change the pshat. And the Aruch HaShulchan says, but you left out a letter in the Torah. It does nothing to discuss. Now, very interesting. Let's see how we can go with this machlekes. What happens if you left out a word that doesn't change pshat? Says the Biur Halacha, what's an example of that? Ani echbadeti a slave parai. You left out ani. You left out ani. You said echbadeti a slave parai. You didn't say ani echbadeti a slave parai. So here the Chafetz Chaim says, well, let's see. It doesn't change pshat bichlal. So the Chafetz Chaim, Chalilo, you left out a word in the Torah. Of course you have to go back. So now you understand the Aruch HaShulchan. So what's pshat in the Mishnah Berurah? In the Mishnah Berurah, when it came to a letter, Mishnah Berurah says, you left out one letter. It doesn't change pshat nishkefelich. Okay? Goyrim, ksas, ein machzirin, whatever. But you left out a word. Ani, you left out the word ani, but it doesn't change pshat. So Kanira, this is what you have to say. Once I heard the word im is Aaron and Haran, it's the same type of thing. You know what's going on over here. It's conveying the message. Mashen came when it comes to ani chbadati. It's very nice. You left out a whole word. We don't have the message from the ani. But this is the Maisa, Pachas Yoisa, these cases. Now, the Maisa, to make it practical, I don't have a watch. What time is it?
So we still have another hour to go.
Oh, good. Rabbi Gottesman, I will do it. I will do it. Another 15 minutes. There's ice cream in the back. So let's see.
I heard a shayla, Efros, right? Kiras Arts Levai. He left out the last page.
He left out Efros. So he said, Lavai Efros. He didn't say Lavai Efros. So he didn't say Lavai Efros. Probably doesn't change the pshat. It probably doesn't change the pshat. I would say it doesn't change the pshat. Yeah, why? Well, it means it's L. What? Yeah. Yeah.
always means into the city.
So you mean it's even more? Oh, that's very good. That's very good. That's very good. You're saying it's mamish. It's a different type of not just going to the city. It's like that's very good. Very good. You know, I'm still looking for someone to teach me diktuk. Du kennst echt etwas nicht mehr nach der Shiur. Okay. I'm paying ice cream. What? So if he slurs the word, my father, Zalzain Gesund, is asking, what happens if he slurs the word? What happens if he slurs words? A lot of times he's going to slur words. We're going to miss words. We're going to miss words. In other words, if all it is a slur, so then maybe har and ar, we could talk. But a lot of times it's not that. A lot of times when he misses words. This is a parsha. Now, the Mai says that. Mai says, listen, what should I tell you about Isai? In Eretz Yisrael, the bar mitzvah boys don't lay in the parsha. I mean, where I come from, I don't know all of Eretz Yisrael, but where I come from, most of the bar mitzvah boys don't lay in the parsha, right? You know what? I don't know. Not. Better that way. I didn't say it, but better that way. Let them do something that's going to have a much bigger tailus in life. Let them finish Mishnayos. Let them finish Masechtas. Let them not have to go to therapy for being yelled at by everyone. Let them, I didn't say. Now, the Maisa, what do you do tachlis? We made a mistake. Okay, a case that you do have to go back for. Okay, now let's go to the next siman. This is really a lot of siman kuflam and zayin. What do you do now tachlis? You actually made the mistake. So we'll go one by one. First of all, if you hear a mistake that changes the pshat, you really should wake up right away. It saves a lot of agmas nefesh. Because you got to go back. If it's a chalav, chaylev, these kind of cases, right? Chaylev, chalev, it really changes the actual havana, and you're going to have to go back. So now, you should know that the Mishabura says, in Sifkat and Beis, he says if you wake up after Musaf, lane it after Musaf. He says take out the Sefer Torah, maybe mamish with a bracha before, a bracha after, 3 psukim, get 3 psukim together and do it. Mishabura has a little bit of a suffix over here. He says, look, there are some that say any mistake is not a problem. And he says, and the Maisa, there's a derech agav. Why isn't it a problem of laning lemafreya? Derech agav. Why isn't it a problem that you're not laning it in order? At that point, in that example, he missed out on a chalav, chaylev, he missed out a word. So now we tell him, you have to take out a Sefer Torah and lane 3 psukim and say a bracha before, a bracha after l'chayra. Hakayra l'mafreya lo yatsa. Yes, by Megillah, but not by Torah. Nor by Megillah, because by Megillah you have to see the whole story in order to appreciate the Hashgachas Hashem Yisbarach. So you got to see this with the order. You have to see how this led to this, which led to this. Mashagin in the Torah, if he reads it l'mafreya, he's like a yaitse. Maimar Muzgar. Akapanim with the Mishabura says, I'm not sure, maybe. Not to make a bracha, the Mishabura says, I'm not sure. Yerushalayim says, I'm sure. He says, I'm sure if it's a mistake that changed pshat, and you're laning it again later on, you take out a Sefer Torah, and you get 3 psukim together, and a bracha before, and a bracha after. So you have to wake up on time when this happens. Hashem Elekei ha'ivrim. And this fellow said, Hashem Elekei Yisrael. So he's not yaitze. He's not yaitze. He has to lane over.
Everybody has a key to stay?
So that gets involved in Chayvas Yochid, Chayvas Sivur. I'll let you guys give share. You and me, we're having a Chavrus and Diktuk after, and the rest of them, they'll talk Chayvas Yochid and Chayvas Sivur. Now the Chidon the Yosef Oimitz, he brings down that it says in the Lashon of the Masechta Seifrim, after Musaf. He has a shaila, what if you wake up after Mincha? These things happen. You tell the Rav, afterward. And the Rav says, what? That's what happened in the morning. And then 5 people say, yeah, Taka, I also heard that. So he has a shaila there. I'm not sure what the shaila is. Yeah, you have to take out the Sefer Torah and you'd have to read the 3 psukim. Now, the truth is, we have a minhag. If he makes a mistake, the Mishabura brings this minhag. He says, if he makes a mistake in the middle of laning, let's say you wake up in Aliyah later. So we have a minhag that what we do is we don't have to add another bracha. We'll go back to that pasuk, wherever Be'erich in that neighborhood. We'll go back to that pasuk and lane straight. Let's say you woke up in Shishi and the mistake was in Rishon. Oh, you're going to get a Mishabech. So you woke up, and I forgot to say, Vayaka Pekude Tzazamen. And so now, you're going to get a Zashishi. You're going to get a Zashishi this time. So you have to lane all the way from there, all the way through Shishi. That's what we do. Now, Mondays and Thursdays, very interesting. They're very interesting shaylas. Mondays and Thursdays, maybe our Chakira could come back alive. What's a shayla? Let's say you make a mistake on a Monday and a Thursday, on a Mincha Shabbos. So now, Yesh Lachkor. Maybe I could have heard everything we spoke about today was dafka when we spoke about a Kriyas HaTorah, because like Moshe writes in one place, there's an Indian, you have to hear the whole Torah every year, and that's a specific Indian on Shabbos Kodesh. You see in the Zohar in this week's parasha, it has to be dafka to hear the whole Torah. That's an Indian for Shabbos. But maybe Monday and Thursday is a different objective. No, couldn't you hear a different side in the Chakita now? What's the objective of the laning on Monday and Thursday? The tachlis of the laning on Monday and Thursday is to get the whole Torah? No, that's Shabbos. It's just that you shouldn't go 3 days. You got to get the message, you know? So maybe it doesn't have to be perfect. Maybe the Monday, Thursday doesn't have to be perfect. Okay, so if you're missing psukim because of this, it could be a different shmooze. But let's say I'm not missing psukim. It was one of those long Monday, Thursday lanings and we missed a word. So here it says the Mishabura Taka, Loch Lamaisa, your Taka don't have to go back. Avada, if it's B'shas Maisa or whatever, okay? But here you wouldn't have to lane it over. And this is Mamish Archakira. When it comes to Monday and Thursday, the tachlis of the laning is just to be in it, Shabbos is no, it's got to be a din kriya, it's got to be perfection, you got to get every single word. And then I saw Davar Nifla in the Maimon Mordechai. What's that? I'm talking about, let's say, after laning. Let's say you messed up Mamish. Do you have to go back? No, I don't deserve fresh ice cream. Let's see after this year if I get fresh ice cream. Huh? Come again? Come again? Oh, so Yontel will be the same idea. Yeah. Wait, I saw Davar Nifla in the Maimon Mordechai in Kuf Lametzayin. Davar Nifla. I had this shayla once. I had the shayla mamish. And that's what I thought. Listen to Zamaisa. The Maimon Mordechai says, what happens? You made a mistake in Rishon on Shabbos. You made a mistake in the middle of Chalav, Chaylev, whatever. Yaseh, Yeyaseh, Yoshev, Yoshev. Mamish, a total mistake. Something that you have to go back for. Listen to a Davar Nifla. Come to get the Maimon Mordechai in Kuf Lamed Zayin. He says, you know what? This guy had 3 other chances already. Okay? He had Mincha last Shabbos, he had Monday, he had Thursday. For sure, in one of them, he got it right. So he says, maybe we could be mitzaref that to here, and you don't have to go back. And you know what? He paskins like that. Davar Nifla. What? No, but you listen, you know. Oh, he holds it to Chayvet Sibur. He doesn't go to laning, you know. What? You know, Mamish, I'm married to Kavaisa. And Rabbi Say, I saw that the Kavachayim, he brings down the Shar Ephraim in Chesed and Tes that says this also. Also, you should know. I see there are Achrayim that maybe I'm a fakfik on this. There are some Achrayim that I'm a fakfik. And because the Lashon of the Zohar is mashma that the Shabbos laning Dav Zayin mamish with perfection. It could be the Rambam is paskening in the Shitas HaZohar. You're there with these things, not pasha. But then I saw Merdik Gazach. I saw the Svarim, they ask, because you reminded me with the Shira. They ask, what if it's the Shira? So could we say, let's say you made a mistake in the Shira, okay? And this could happen, you know how you can make a mistake in the Shira? Because it's hard to read the words and you know it by heart. You all know what I'm talking about. So the Baal Korah got lost in the middle over there. And then after the laning, he admitted it. He admitted it to me once, don't ask, right? And he knows the Shira Baal Peh. And in the middle, he got all lost and he was just laning away and everything. And he got through it all. So now, maybe we'll say a zach like this. Maybe we'll say, which we're going to have in Pesach, right? Even though Mashiach is going to come, but the Yom Tovim aren't but the last Lavai. So we're going to lay the Shira. So here I saw that even the Achrayim that were Mekel, the Shar Ephraim, he says, no. You can only falazich on das Gevein, that which was. You can't falazich, you can't be Saimach on that which will be. That already is too far. That's already too weit. Now, by saying, just the last few nakudas here. One is, as I just mentioned, the Kriya has to be mitoch eksav. As you all know, sometimes, the last pasuk, the last 3 words, you know what I'm talking about? You see the Baal Korah, and then he looks up. His eyes are already up. And it's, wow, he knows it by heart. I'm so happy to see that. Great. Oh, fabulous. So now, so there you could say that maybe he saw it and then he read it, peripheral vision, but you got to read it inside. There's no games. You got to read it inside. It's a real thing. Now, sometimes, the way it works sometimes, I asked about Koyres. He explained to me like this. He said, look, I saw him. I saw him look up like that. I said, look, I'm not going to cause trouble, but, I can fire you, man. He said to me, look, it's not like that. I see the last 3 words. I read it, not at the time when I'm seeing it. It's interesting. This depends on your pain threshold, Rabbi say, you know. It depends on what you can handle. Just give me a moment, Rabbi say. I'll answer the shaila after. I want to just finish up these nekudas. This gets involved in the very serious shaila of kriying ksiv. Right? Because it says in the Torah Kedusha, it says the word is yishalgeno. Yishagleno. Sorry. And then I said it right the first time. One of the ways, because you see, I'm not the Baal Koyer, right? And we read it, Yishkaveno. So now, how does this work? So the Rashba says, no, that's exactly how the Halacha L'May explains also on Kabbalah. That's exactly how the Halacha L'May Sinai works. You see this word and read this word. Where do we do that all the time? Yerchei Vavke, right? Obviously, you see this word and you read this word. Which brings to a very interesting shaila. Rav Vosner, Zechariah Lefracha, in Chelik Ches, I think it was in Chelik Ches. I didn't write that in the Shuva. I think it was in the 21st Shuva. Rav Vosner has a shaila over there, a very interesting shaila, that the Kri was, let's say, whatever it was, the Ksiv had wax on it. Okay? In other words, what would be Avada if you had a problem in the Sefer Torah? For Shnei the Sefer Torah is possible. Okay, Andrew Shmu's next week's shir. That's Hashem. But let's say you have that the Sefer Torah has a piece of wax blocking the ice. So says Rav Vosner, maybe and he brings a Pri Megadim that's mistapik. Maybe we could put two things together. Mitzad the Sefer Torah, the Ksiv Segit, right? Mitzad the Kri, right? So anyways, I'm not reading the word that's there, so maybe we could put the two together. Rav Vosner says, no, you're reading that word. So you can only explain this to a yid. If you tell this to a guy, you probably die. You're looking at the word. When you see Yud Kei Vav Kei, those are what that word means. So you have to read it. You have to read it. When you're saying Shem of Hashem, Yisbarach, that's the word. So the fact that it's covered is not going to help you. You didn't read it. Then you'd have to go back. Let's say Vayidaber Hashem al Moshe. Sometimes you get to Kasha Tziv Hashem's in Pekudei, it's compelled. You come to a Vayidaber Hashem al Moshe, you can have mamish like 4 or 5 of them in a row. My Parshas Bo, you have it. There are 4 or 5 of them in a row. And you look at the wrong one, and you read the wrong one. Now, I'm not getting involved. That's a under Shiloh. Maybe we should talk about it one day. What happens, they open up to the Sefer Torah and they point to the wrong one. You should know there's a lot of kulas on this. There's a lot of kulas. I'll say, but I can't. I have a Yetzer Hara on this one. In Simin Kuf Mem over there, I think it's Steve Gimel, over there, this is extra. This is ice cream. When you open up the Sefer Torah and it shows you the wrong place, Kimat, in every case, we're not going to let you make a bracha again. You know that? Even though it's the wrong place, and what do you mean? My das was on this apple, not on that apple, like the Sukkah and Shulchan Aruch and Reish Vav and das. So there's a lot of kulas. Number one is the Magen Avram sagt that if it's in the same column, the bracha was on the column. The Taz says the bracha is on, the oila. When he makes a bracha, a lot of the Min Ashkenazim Makopanim is he opens up the Sefer Torah and he puts his head to the side. So he opened up 3 amudim. So he made the bracha on all 3 amudim. So you already covered 3 amudim. But the Pri Megadim with the Biad Lacha Gebrach, he says you should know that the ganze Shailas Nifahan only in a specific oifen. What's the case? The case is if you had das that this is the kriya, so then also the bracha went on wherever you thought the kriya was supposed to be. So where's the case? I know today's Parshas Vayishlach. Where's the case? You know where the case is, Gemalt? In Chol Moed Pesach, they got the wrong day. I mean, if you got the wrong day in Sukkot, you're on the same thing. That's nicht gefährlich. But you got the wrong day in Chol Moed Pesach, and he thought today you were laning for Parshas Kisisa and it's Parshas Rei, and thus. So he thought it was a totally different laning. This guy is a gewaltige Schlemazel. That's the only case that you can have it that we're going to tell him it's taka no good, and you have to make another bracha. Al Kapon, that was ice cream, kinderlach, ice cream. But what happens? This year there's a V'yidaber over here, and he looked at the wrong V'yidaber. So now some of the Bali Koyer, they're so good. He sees V'yidaber here and he quickly goes back up there and he reads it. But he read V'yidaber Hashem al Moshe. Somebody asked me this, Ma'aseh Shahaya. He read V'yidaber Hashem al Moshe, but the wrong V'yidaber Hashem al Moshe, and then he quickly went back to the right V'yidaber Hashem al Moshe. So he asked me, is he Yarchei? I told him, by me, it's Pashut you're not, but you need a raya. But Pashut you're not. You're not laning in the right place. But I said, V'yidaber Hashem al Moshe. Here, you get a point for trying. But it's not the right one. I looked around. I found that there's a sefer, the Shevet Kasi, the Belzadayin. He dons ahir and ahir. He says maybe you're Yarchei. To me, it's a Pella. And then I found Baruch Hashem in the Yalkut Yosef in our Simon. I found this is fresh off the press. He brings a Chuvas Eitan Aryeh, and Itaka says that you're not Yarchei, but Avadai you're not Yarchei. Granted, by Megillah, it's Negeya. You're going to be Yarchei because the Kurya Balpez Yarchei parts of Megillah. Where's it Negeya by Megillah? S, Vaizosov, S, all the way to Vaizosov, right? S. So those S's are very difficult to get the right S. right? But you're Yarchei when it comes to Megillah. Don't worry, you're Yarchei when it comes to Megillah. The Maisa, this is Kimat, most of the cases. What if the Bal Koirei, he says, Amen to his own bracha? To his own bracha. Oh, you mean he always does this? Right? He makes this mistake. You know, Baruch Hashem, no, say not Amen. Happens. About it happens. Who's the Bal Koirei here? No, who wants to be the target practice? It happens. Not to say. No? So Rav Osner, you have to be makir toiv to Rav Osner, because Rav Osner has a very nice tshuva. A very nice tshuva about this. Rav Osner is in, I didn't write down where, also Chelik Ches, I think that was in the 92nd tshuva. You have sick. He loses his bracha. It's like saying, Al Natilas Lulav, Shalom Aleichem, right? Or like saying, Al Natilas Lulav, Amen. If you say, Al Natilas Lulav, Amen, what does it say in the Mishabur and Zivin Kuf Tanach Zayin? Ayin Sham in the Shar Tzin Tzivkat Memket, no good. You just have a hefsek, no good. So Rav Osner as a savior, he says, maybe it could be Melamed Tzchus. He says, Amen, the Amen of the Bal Koirei has two functions. One, it's the answer to a bracha, and one, it's Oilam Zai Shtil. Right? We're ungate and we're starting to lane, right? You know, if you didn't hear the first part of the Shiur. So he's saying, it's getting the attention, even good to mention. It's getting the attention. It's getting the attention. It's getting the attention of the people. No, it's getting the attention of the people. So then you can say the Amen as a service also. What the Maisa, you make a mistake in the middle of the pasuk. No, who knows what's one of the Aseres Adibros? Let's hear. Right? You make a mistake in the middle of the pasuk. Come on, what's one of the Aseres Adibros? No, get the pasuk. You guys aren't from shul. You guys don't daven in shuls? You don't know what I'm talking about? That the guy makes a mistake in the middle of the pasuk. They say, you got to finish the pasuk. Where does it say it? It must say it in the Aseres Adibros because people say it with so much authority. Right? Where does it say it? So I looked. I don't see. I see in the Chayodam there's a pum fakir pum. He doesn't say it. He says the opposite. He says, no, you don't. As a matter of fact, if Chalila, there's a Shem Hashem in the end of the pasuk, then for sure don't finish the pasuk. Well, we need you to again say Shem Hashem. It doesn't tell you don't have to finish it. I know there has to be something controversial this year, so let it be that. Now, there are the questions we didn't get to talk about today. Oh, there's so much up on your side. There's so much. Maybe you guys will stay for another week. Maybe you'll stay for another week. What happens? They call up two brothers. So, V'shteit, das is Ayin Har. You know the people that say, I don't believe in Ayin Har. Oh, yeah, that's good, but Shulchan Aruch does. Shulchan Aruch says if they call up two brothers, Shulchan Aruch says, no, it looks like they're taking over here. So you're not allowed to give two brothers an aliyah, one after the other. That's a mistake. What do you do if they called you up? You don't go. Right? Are you going to lose Arichas Yom? No, you're not. You're saying, I'm not going because I'm afraid of the Ayin Har. But what if you did go? So then you realized afterward, he's your brother. You haven't talked to him in a couple of years. Now you realize that he's your brother. So the Mishnah Berurah says, okay, it sounds like Kachin Gevenlich. Then once you go up, you don't go back down. But you send the other brother down miyad. Then you send the other brother down miyad. And there's other things. What happens? You messed up, you botched up the bracha. You said, Asher Notzamanis. Sometimes the guy mamish messes up, right? And he says, Asher Notzam Lanu Torah's Emes, and no one's going, and he thinks he's getting strength and he's more chizik. So that's how he made the whole bracha. So Mishnah Berurah's psak in that case, so many right over there. The Mishnah Berurah's up like machlokes. Mishnah Berurah says in that case, so then after bracha you make Asher Bacher. Mishnah Berurah says then afterward you make Asher Bacher. What happens? You made an Asher Bacher twice. You made Bacher first, and then a Bacher last. So Mishnah Berurah, he takes a bigger position over here. Mishnah Berurah says, if you make two, but no good, you have to say an Asher Nasan. Asher Nasan, you said the whole Asher Bacher, so you got to say an Asher Nasan. What happens if you said Asher Nasan twice? He says, also no good. You said Asher Nasan, and then again Asher Nasan, so then you got to say Asher Bacher. No? After, obviously, if you could do it all within Turkey, they deeper within the middle of the bracha, halavai. No, what's the time frame? The time frame, it's like, this is what it means when it says in Chazal that Kriyas HaTorah is a reenactment of Sinai. Das is a reenactment of Sinai. This is what it looked like at Sinai. Good luck tomorrow morning to the Bal Koirei. Sorry? Good luck. Morgen, the Friedoi, the poor Bal Koirei. I wish him a lot of mazel. And Halavai next year will be Zeicha Zayin Taka, that Moshe, the Ramah, the Rambam, my Rebbeim will be giving the Shiur, and I'll be sitting here with you where I belong. Bracha v'atzlacha.